Welcome, Patrick, Noel Daly. We have the Q&A because we have the Covid-19 crisis, and a lot of startups and businesses, they are now frozen. So we don't know what to do or how to react to this crisis, because now everything like we were thinking is gone. So reality is completely different, market is different, and we don't know about the future. So here is the Q&A, our questions. We can start with the first question. What exactly means to be in crisis? And concretely to the crisis COVID-19.
Okay, hi Yara, good to be here today. So I guess there are two elements to that question, or two answers to that question. One is, the first thing to say, in a startup situation, you could say, if you're being somewhat critical, that everything is a crisis, because you're building this startup which is changing all of the time. And planning is key to minimizing that impact, the impact of any day-to-day challenges that come your way. Challenges are probably a more appropriate word than crisis, because I think in founding any startup, you just have to go with a plan. But the plan sometimes goes exactly to plan. Sometimes it doesn't, so there's always some form of modification going on. That leads me into the second part, which is the current scenario, and where we are right now. We couldn't have seen this, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, even maybe 4 months ago. We couldn't have seen where this was going to go. And really, as it evolved, startups also need to evolve to fit, and they need to modify their strategy, need to modify, in my view, you just need to reassess literally pretty much every day or every week now and say, okay, where are we at? What's our aim? Are we surviving? Which is a fundamental question. Do we have enough fuel in the tank? Do we have enough money to keep us going? How are we managing our costs? Because that's fundamental to survival. Bootstrapping should, by the way, and this is a kind of a general comment, in a startup, it's always a good idea to keep the bootstrapping mentality, keep your costs as low as possible. Because if these crises come along, then you're in a much stronger position to keep your startup alive. So right now, to answer the question, in this COVID-19 crisis scenario, I think we need to look at just maintaining and staying steady. If you're in a product area that doesn't have demand right now, just basically stay steady for as long as possible, keep your costs to the lowest level possible, but also plan for an exit of this crisis, because, thankfully, we're in a situation which is evolving, and in the coming while, you have to plan as though we're coming out of this crisis. Maybe it'll be a new normal, maybe what we knew before, and it's highly likely that it will be a new normal in terms of operation and how we do things. For example, the video chat we're having right now, this will become more normal. This is more normal right now. I think people will work probably a little bit more from home. When I wrote my book last year, I thought, okay, in a few years' time, working from home and remote working is going to become popular at that time, and more popular at that time. I didn't think it was going to be a few months though, because
and now it's forced. Like there is not other
exactly.
option.
Yeah, exactly. So I think keep a steady course right now. If you can, keep your costs down, but plan for exit. What do you want to do, and what are you going to do as a startup when you exit this phase or this crisis that's going on right now?
Yeah, but as well, in the point of now, maybe the next question is about how to be creative in this time, because like all our preconceptions change, and as well we have different type of people, and then the leadership of the startups or the small business and corporates as well, the personality of the leadership has a direct link to how the company or the startups is behaving now. Mm-hmm. And then we can see different personalities, like some of them, they are frozen, so they don't know what to do, and they have not the energy, so the company is as well frozen. Oh, there are more active leaders who are making active solutions, or they change the strategy already. They are implementing new ways of working in the company, but there are others like they stop the business.
Mm-hmm.
So in this sense, how much important is creativity? And we can say in the times now with crisis, everyone has this force to be much more creative like usual, and thinking outside the box to make this kind of solutions or this move forward. How do you see this creativity as a key element?
Well, I think creativity is vital in startups across the board, whether we're in crisis or not. We have to be creative. You know, and one of the things that happens, as I said, you can have a plan in place, but the plan changes. So you need to be able to adapt and change with that. Now, if you look at the existing situation, the existing crisis that's going on, yes, that is very, very challenging for many businesses. For medical healthcare, anything to do with that segment and sector, that's more of an opportunity than a challenge right now. But the challenge is actually scaling it, is getting it to engage right now. I'll give you an example. We have a range of infection control products for hospitals, healthcare, which we've adapted, by the way, for all sleep surfaces across the board, for hotels and for people at home as well. But I had a conversation with somebody 2 days ago, and they said, oh, you know, we're not even looking at new products. We're not looking at this technology. We're not looking at anything like that. And I'm saying, okay, but like, now is the time to prepare, you know, now is the time to be ready. So be creative about your research and development. Be creative about the timing of what you want to do. Accept right now that we can do very little. People are not making decisions. But at some stage in the coming while, people will start making decisions again, and be ready, be prepared at that stage. And I think the creativity factor is fundamental in any business. It's a common rule as far as I'm concerned. If you look at something that is existing, and this is where innovation is so important. You know, innovation is a mindset, in my view. It's a way of thinking. It's not about a product. It's not about, you know, particularly the intellectual property part. It's not about a specific function. It's about everything in the business. You look at your entire business and say, how can we innovate across the spectrum of the business? And if you take that mindset, then it just allows you to kind of do a complete assessment on where you can improve. And in any business, whether it's big or small, innovation is critical. You need to stay ahead. You need to keep improving. You need to keep innovating and evolving to meet the challenges and meet the opportunities that come along.
So now, because we are in this phase of rethinking the business and we have to pivot. So how the business model changes, or how we can adapt our company to the crisis, and as well to the digitalization. So now we are forced to be digital in many sense, and we were not ready, even if we were talking about digitalization for many years. Mm-hmm. So how we can say maybe the tips for pivoting the business?
Let's take a specific example. A specific example around that is, let's say you had 15 or 50 people in a building previously. And that was an overhead. The building itself is obviously an overhead. You're paying for the function of the building, for the rental or ownership of the building. And you have 50 people in there, and they're doing their job every day. If I was CEO of that group right now, I would say, okay, can 25 of those people work from home for 3 days a week and just come to meetings as necessary? And maybe we can reduce our costs by doing so. Maybe we can maximize our efficiency or our effectiveness as a team by collaborating online, by having meetings online, instead of being in the same place all day. And I think that model is going to become really popular now. And this has accelerated. This whole crisis scenario has accelerated that thinking. And whether I have 50 employees or 5,000 employees, I would think the same way. I would think, okay, are people going to be more productive, you know, if they work from home for, let's say, Tuesday and Wednesday, and if they have meetings on Thursday and Friday, then you have more like a meeting place or a meeting point or a co-working environment instead of a fixed place of work, let's say. If we use the kind of old style definition, the place of work. The place of work is everywhere now. You can work from anywhere with technology. And that's what I do. I travel around the world. And I work from where I am. I don't have to be bound geographically to one place, which is great for the business. But I think if we just change that mindset, then we can maximize the efficiency, the effectiveness of our meetings, the effectiveness of our collaborations, let's say, our cooperations every day. But also from an operational perspective, we can keep our costs down.
Yeah, exactly. You have not to pay for the rent of the building. So, by the way, real estate has to rethink the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the co-working spaces.
Yeah.
So now, if we were touching the point of crisis, creativity, and as well how to pivot the business, who are mainly all the daily tasks should be of a startup and entrepreneur. What is for you entrepreneurship?
Again, entrepreneurship is very much kind of like, I think it's a collection of expertise or a collection of your experiences. But primarily it's an attitude. It's if you get up in the morning, which is sometimes really early starts and late nights, it's an attitude, but it's an enthusiastic attitude to get things done. You look at the business, the concept. This can be just an idea to start with. And once you get the idea and say, hey, this could be a good idea. My advice is take that idea, and this is coming from personal experience. Take that idea, think about it for a while, and park it for a day, and then park it for a week, and look at it again and critically evaluate the idea and say, not as the, let's say, inventor or the entrepreneur or the innovator. Think about it as a potential customer and say, would I pay for that service? Would I pay for that product? And if you do that critical evaluation, then that allows the effectiveness of I guess, the business that you're about to start or the entrepreneurship approach to be more effective. But getting back to the question about what is entrepreneurship, I think, again, it's like the innovation factor. It's a mindset. Is it for you? It's not for everybody. It's a tough life when things are tough. It's can be a lonely place when decisions need to be made. And in the early stages, very early stages, we're on our own. It can be quite a lonely road in that sense. But if the motivation is there and the belief and the commitment is there, that's great. The other thing in entrepreneurship is, I think you need to be able to convince a team, the people around you, customers, and that's not the same as selling now. This is very, very important.
Yeah, it's about engagement.
It's about engagement. It's about convincing, because some entrepreneurs that I speak with and I mentor quite a bit now in various parts of the world, and some of the responses first are, look, I'm an engineer or I'm a scientist, but I'm not really a kind of a salesperson. I don't know how to sell. And my response is, do you believe in your product and our service, whichever? And they say, yes. Can you articulate in like a few minutes what's so good about that? And they typically say yes. I say, well, then you can convince. And if you can convince, you can sell. Because selling is all about, as well, and creating sales. For me, by the way, it's probably, and I say this quite a lot, sales is the fundamental cornerstone of any business. No sales, no business,
Yeah, no money.
No money, nothing coming in. So it's not a business, it's an idea.
Because without money, we cannot run the business. Without business, we cannot make impact. So
no fuel in the tanks, and we just run out of fuel. It's as simple as that. So we need to have sales. But I think the misconception is that sales is all about, like, putting your product forward and being very driven and having a smooth sales presentation and all that. Sales for me is very much about convincing the other person that's listening to your pitch or your presentation, convincing them that the product is what they need or the service is what they need, and that you believe in it and that it does what you say it will do. And when that trust factor builds in, then it goes from there.
Yeah, and I think I like it when you mentioned at the beginning the point of entrepreneurship is when you are doing innovation. So when you are bringing innovation to the market, because it's not that you are doing a normal business. And if you pass already like this innovation is up and running in the market, it's when you are an SME or a normal business, you are running operations. It's not anymore some active action of innovation or bringing something new to the market like has a value for the society and the people and the industry.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is probably one of the most multifaceted professions or jobs around, because you get to do a lot of different things. You know, you have to know about marketing, you have to know you have to know about accounting, finance, you have to know about funding, you have to know about, all aspects of the business, every single element of the business. And if you're the leader of that business, and if you're the promoter of your own business, then there's a lot of plates spinning at any one time. You need to make sure that you're in touch with what's going on, have the information, but don't overwhelm yourself with trying to be in the weeds too much. Try to understand every element of what's going on. Listen to what people are saying, because one of the mistakes that I made in the early years particularly was I was so busy trying to get my idea out and trying to get my product sold and trying to get some traction. I kind of forgot to listen to some of the conversations and the advice or the elements of feedback. So I think active listening is really, really important if you're an entrepreneur. Take time to hear what people have to say, and that can be your team, that can be your advisors, that can be mentors, that can be investors, all of that. Take it on board and think about it. And it'll invariably, I found that it helps to make your decision process much more smooth and reliable.
So thank you very much, Patrick. I think we are at the end of the Q&A questions, and if we receive more questions, so we do another one.
Absolutely, it's great. Thanks, Yara.
So thank you. Bye.